In the 1960s, American racing looked like a loud war. Big factories, big egos, big headlines. Ford was shouting, Chrysler was flexing. Every Sunday felt like a public grudge match played out at 200 miles an hour. But while everyone was watching the noise, Chevrolet was doing something very different. They weren't screaming for attention. They weren't planting flags. And yet, by the end of the decade, Chevrolet engines were everywhere, winning everywhere, changing everything. Chevy didn't dominate American racing by building one unbeatable car. They dominated it by quietly becoming unavoidable. To understand how that happened, you have to understand the battlefield. The 1960s were the golden age of American motorsport. NASCAR was exploding in popularity. Drag racing packed grandstands coast to coast. Road racing was finding its footing. Manufacturers had choices to make. Ford went all in on NASCAR, building factory teams and chasing headlines. Chrysler focused on brute force, betting everything on the Hemi. Chevrolet, on paper, took a step back. General Motors had an official racing ban. No factory NASCAR teams, no public declarations of war. But racing doesn't stop just because a corporation says it should. It just goes underground. And that's where Chevrolet thrived, but engines like the Camry don't just disappear. Ford began selling them over the counter, quietly, through parts catalogs. If NASCAR wouldn't allow it, someone else would. Drag racers quickly realized what they were looking at. In top fuel and funny car competition, the Camry became a monster. It made insane power, handled boost beautifully, and rewrote record books. While NASCAR pretended it never existed, the Camry became a legend everywhere else. The engine that was too radical for stock cars was suddenly winning championships in straight-line racing. Chevy's real advantage wasn't a single car or a single series. It was philosophy. While other manufacturers built specialized weapons, Chevrolet built something far more dangerous, a system. At the center of it all was the small block Chevy. Lightweight, compact, cheap to build, easy to modify, strong enough to survive abuse. From the 283 to the 327 to the legendary 302, these engines weren't exotic. They were accessible. You could buy one, race it, blow it up, rebuild it, and race again without a factory budget. That meant something powerful. Chevy engines didn't belong to one team. They belonged to everyone. And once that happened, the takeover was inevitable. In NASCAR, independent teams quietly relied on Chevrolet power. Even when badges didn't say Chevy, the hardware underneath often told a different story. In drag racing, small block Chevys dominated local tracks and national events alike, powering everything from gassers to early pro stock builds. On road courses, the Camaro Z/28 and its high-revving 302 became the weapon of choice in Trans Am. The Corvette carried Chevy power into endurance racing, proving American V8s could run hard and run long. At grassroots tracks across the country, weekend racers trusted one thing above all else: Chevy reliability. Chevy didn't need to own the podium. They owned the pits. What made this dominance even more effective was how quiet it was. Chevrolet didn't have to fight the rulebook because they weren't challenging it head-on. While Ford and Chrysler drew attention with factory teams and controversial designs, Chevy stayed in the background. No loud protests, no political battles, just engines sold to racers who went out and won on their own. If NASCAR tightened the rules, Chevy teams adapted. If drag racing evolved, Chevy engines evolved with it. There was no single target to ban, no single car to outlaw. Chevrolet wasn't beating the system, they were flowing through it. By the late 1960s, the realization started to set in. Look across American racing and you saw the same pattern repeating itself. Different cars, different teams, different tracks, same power, same architecture, same ideas. Ford engineers began borrowing small block concepts. Chrysler struggled outside of NASCAR's narrow window. Rulebooks changed, but Chevrolet stayed competitive because their strength wasn't one breakthrough, it was flexibility. By the time anyone thought to slow them down, Chevy had already moved on to the next iteration. That's the part history often misses. Chevrolet didn't dominate American racing by winning loud. They dominated by winning everywhere. They built engines people could afford, understand, and trust. They empowered racers instead of controlling them. And in doing that, they reshaped the sport from the ground up. The small block Chevy didn't just win races in the 1960s. It became the foundation of modern American racing culture. Today, that legacy still runs deep. The reason Chevy loyalty feels different is because it was earned in garages, not boardrooms. On back roads, on local tracks, on Sunday afternoons where nobody cared who the factory supported, only what finished first. Chevrolet didn't just dominate a decade. They taught America how to race quietly, efficiently, and relentlessly. And by the time the rest of the industry realized what was happening, the damage was already done. Chevy didn't need to shout. They didn't need permission. They just kept winning. And that's how Chevrolet quietly dominated American racing.